From waiter to owner, the quiet revenge nobody saw coming. I still remember the exact moment Marcus walked through the back door of Bellacino's for the very first time. It was a Tuesday in November, that raw kind of cold that cuts right through your jacket no matter how bundled up you are. He had this single plastic bag with his work clothes in it, and his face, man, I don't know how to describe it except quiet determination. Not hopeful, not jittery, just ready. Like he'd already been knocked around enough in life that starting fresh at 41 as a waiter wasn't going to break him. I was the one who trained him. And look, before I get any further into this, I got to tell you straight up, what happened to Marcus over the next couple years was one of the toughest, most quietly unfair things I've ever seen go down with another person. And what came after? That still gives me chills thinking about it. First, you need to get what Bellacino's was really like. On the surface, it had that warm, old-school Italian vibe that made folks feel right at home. Dark wood everywhere, candles flickering on the tables, the air thick with garlic and rosemary baked into the walls after 22 years. Regulars swore by it, reviews were solid. But behind the kitchen doors, past the reservation book, under that Friday night smile the owner put on when the place filled up, there was a rot in it that most customers never caught a whiff of. The owner was Gerald Fitch. And Gerald was the type who sized up exactly what he thought you were worth before deciding how to treat you. Marcus showed up with a background most people would have respected. 15 years in commercial real estate, until the company he'd poured everything into got swallowed up in that 2019 restructuring mess that took out a bunch of mid-size outfits. Lost the job, then the marriage, then the house. Not some flashy Hollywood crash, but the slow, grinding kind that wears you down. One unpaid bill at a time. One conversation that just fizzles out. One morning you wake up and everything you've built is just gone. He'd taken some community college courses in hospitality. His sister worked front of house at a hotel downtown and told him the industry was steady. People always got to eat, honest work and all that. She wasn't wrong. Marcus picked things up fast, had this genuine warmth with customers, and a calm way about him that put people at ease right away. 3 weeks in, he was pulling better tips than servers who'd been there for years. And that's probably where the trouble started. Gerald noticed. Gerald always noticed stuff like that. But his noticing wasn't about giving credit. It was more like sizing up new gear to see how hard he could run it before it wore out. "You were in real estate?" Gerald asked him one slow evening, catching Marcus by the host stand. Said it with this half-smile, like the whole thing amused him. "Commercial, yeah. 15 years or so," Marcus answered. Gerald tilted his head. "And now you're handing out bread baskets." There was this pause, short in real time, but it stretched out. Marcus looked him in the eye and said, "For now." That answer stuck with Gerald. I saw it from across the room. Something shifted in his face, this little mean glint that most people would have missed. But I'd been at Bellacino's 6 years. I knew how to read Gerald Fitch like you learn to read storm clouds after getting soaked too many times. After that, the changes came in quiet ways. The dangerous kind. Scheduling got tweaked first. Marcus ended up on the worst shifts. Thursday lunches, Sunday mornings, the dead zones where tips were slim and the work piled up. When he asked Diane, the thin, no-nonsense manager, about it, she brushed it off as seniority rotation. Total lie. It had never worked that way before. Then the table assignments. On busy Friday and Saturday nights, when a good section could mean $300 in tips, Marcus got stuck with that awkward corner by the kitchen. The noisy, drafty tables nobody wanted, where customers felt like they were eating in a hallway. He never complained. That's what got to me about Marcus. He just put his head down and worked harder. But what happened that March night, about 5 months in, that's when I knew this wasn't just sloppy management. It was deliberate. Table 14. 6 people celebrating a retirement. Loud, happy chaos. Champagne before they even open the menus, lots of laughs. The kind of table that can turn into a fat tip if you nail it. Marcus killed it. I watched him for 2 hours. Remembered every drink without notes. Timed the courses perfect. Made the guest of honor. This retired school principal named Dorothy. Feel like the center of the universe. When the bill came, her daughter slipped him a sign card with the check. $400 on a $600 tab. Marcus came back to the server station looking quietly pleased, showed me the receipt. I was happy for him. For about 4 minutes. Then Diane showed up and said table 14 had been accidentally assigned to him due to a system glitch, and it actually belonged to Ryan. Ryan was one of Gerald's pets, 24, spent more time chatting up hostesses than working, but his family knew Gerald from the country club. She told Marcus the tip was going to Ryan. The air got thick after that. That table wasn't in Ryan's section. Marcus said, real quiet. There was a system reassignment, Diane muttered, avoiding his eyes. Diane, I took their order. I served them for 2 hours. I understand, she said. But the system didn't bring Dorothy her champagne. The system didn't remember her shellfish allergy. I did. She walked off. Marcus stood there a long beat, holding that receipt copy. Then he folded it neat, tucked it in his apron, and didn't say another word about it that night. Over the months that followed, I started noticing things most people miss when they hear the story later. They jump straight to the revenge part. But the real meat was what Marcus was doing in the background while all this was piling on him. He was watching, learning, saving every penny. I didn't see the whole picture till later, but little stuff stood out. He'd hang back in the dining room on slow times, studying the flow, asking Luis, the kitchen manager, questions about food costs and suppliers that went way beyond waiter stuff, reading real books on his breaks, restaurant operations management, that kind of thing. I asked him about it once, out by the delivery area during a break. You studying for something? He looked at me, weighing his words. Just keeping my mind sharp. I bought it. Mostly. But something in his tone stuck with me. Summer rolled in, and Gerald started pulling big-shot regulars into the back office for schmoozing, bourbon, talks about expansion, the usual. One night in July, he had Philip Dorset back there, this private equity guy. Marcus got pulled off the floor entirely for side work. I overheard Gerald in the hallway saying something like, the problem with some of these guys is they don't know their place. Bring him around clients, and it sends the wrong message. Marcus caught part of it too, walking back from storage. Just enough. He told me later he sat in his car that night for 20 minutes. Not sad, just calculating. September hit with the Hargrove party, old money, entitled as hell. Gerald was all over them, laughing too loud. Their drunk 19-year-old son snapped his fingers at Marcus in the middle of the room, loud enough for everyone to hear, complaining about the wait and muttering about someone his age just learning this job. Gerald heard it all, did nothing, just smiled and kept talking wine. Marcus handled it smooth, delivered the food, stayed professional. Later in the break room, he just said, almost to himself, 2 more months. I didn't get it then. October, November. Then December dropped the bomb. Gerald was selling the place. Announced it quick one morning, said new owners would make changes, jobs not guaranteed, but he'd put in a word. Then he bounced for a call. The room went dead quiet. I glanced at Marcus by the window. He had this small, controlled smile I hadn't seen before. The buyer was Thornfield Hospitality Group, some investment outfit. Sale price around $2 million. Gerald checked out mentally those last weeks. Then December 28th, middle of a slow shift, this guy in a gray overcoat walks in, asks for the manager. Says he's from Thornfield, there for the transition, and the new owner will be right behind him. We all stared at the door. And in walks Marcus. Diane's face went blank. Ryan stepped back. Luis let out this half-laugh from the kitchen. Gerald froze in the hallway like he'd seen a ghost. Marcus just gave him that small smile. The story pieced together after Marcus had been prepping for 18 months. Used his old real estate contacts, including a guy named James Okafor now in hospitality. Built a solid case. The place was underperforming, neighborhood was up and coming, Gerald was checked out and would sell cheap. Marcus put in his own money from living lean and some inheritance. He didn't buy it for revenge. The business made sense. The revenge just came with it. The meetings were all business. He told staff positions would be reviewed on performance, not favoritism. 4-month renovation coming. Needed people who wanted to be there. Kept Luis, me, a few solid servers. Let Ryan and Diane go, polite as you please. Gerald showed up one last time for his stuff. They crossed paths. For what it's worth, Gerald said, I didn't think you had it in you. Marcus looked at him. I know. That's why it worked. Reopened in late April. Same name. Marcus said it had neighborhood equity. But everything else changed. Better menu, real pay for Luis, fair schedules, fix the bad sections by redoing the layout. Dorothy came on opening night after a handwritten invite. Hugged him hard. Her daughter looked stunned. He was our waiter last year. Yeah, I said. And a damn good one. I've chewed on the real lesson here a lot. It's easy to call it revenge and call a day. But it's deeper than that. Those folks who stepped on Marcus, Gerald, Diane, Ryan, that kid, they probably didn't think about him again. That's how it goes when you treat people like they're beneath you. You move on. Marcus got that. He wasn't running on rage. It was clarity. He saw the place for what it could be, used every bad shift and slight as information. And he took it over. Saw Gerald once after, alone at a competitor's spot, looking like he was pretending to enjoy his wine and paper. Didn't say hi. Just went back to Bellacino's, where the Friday rush was humming, the air full of garlic and rosemary and this new feeling, like a place finally run by someone who actually cared. Marcus was up front, greeting a table, jacket on, sleeves rolled, laughing easy with the guests. Looked like a man who'd finally arrived where he'd been heading all along. He looked like himself.